All right, welcome. We are back for our next episode here, Urban Ohm Beyond the Mat. And we are welcoming Emma Williams today on our show. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's lovely.
Great to be here.
So we would love to get to know a little bit more about your background and things like that. But to kick us off, we are really going to focus on yoga for health today. There's so many different parts of our health, right? There's women's health, there's physical health, there's emotional health, there's mental health. So I think that that's such a lovely topic for us to be able to really dive deep into. And I'm sure there'll be an overlap with things that we've talked about with yoga therapeutics and how do we rehabilitate and all these different things that I'm so excited to dive into for today. So Emma, go ahead and introduce your background and, as a teacher and things like that, and we'll kick it off from there.
Okay, so my actual background is I'm a classical musician. I play the flute, and I have always used movement to. So I was born with a soft bone condition, a rare metabolic bone condition, and ended up having a lot of operations and physio, and I walked with crutches until I was 28.
Oh, I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
so from a young age you had crutches?
Yeah. So from about 11,
Wow.
I broke my legs 13 times.
Unlucky
Wow.
13.
Unlucky 13. I almost feel like I have either, maybe I'd prefer to say 12 fractures, or because it does feel really unlucky.
But we'll talk about inner beliefs later and why this kind of sticks with us.
So I walked with crutches until I was late 20s. And I had my last operation was to, I had a intramedullary nail, which sounds really fancy, but basically it's a long metal rod, 38 centimeters, that goes through the middle of my right thigh bone, titanium, no less.
Wow.
With a little screw that goes up into my hip to kind of hold it all in place. And at which point I started doing Pilates.
You are a perfect candidate for yoga for health. We love hearing this.
This is
Tell
it.
us how it helped and what worked.
My Pilates teacher that I started seeing was, she didn't just teach Pilates. She taught whole body. So there was some elements of yoga in there. There was always stretch and so some strength work as well.
Mat Pilates, right?
Mat Pilates, classic mat Pilates. But there was, now I know more about those sorts of things. I realized that actually she had a whole lot more in there than just the classic mat Pilates. And after about 5 years with her, I actually stopped using crutches.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And I think she just gave me not only the strength, but the confidence, and my body felt in a really good place. I, through the work that I was doing with her, I started off one-to-one and then joined the group classes. And
Which is a great way to go, because
I
it
think
gives you
so.
the specifics that you're wanting and then the confidence to modify as you need to in a larger group.
Exactly. And that was certainly something that was really important for me, because I've got a leg length difference of 4 centimeters, which is quite significant.
Yeah.
And so we kind of worked together one-to-one. At that time, I didn't use too much modification, but I guess as life has progressed, maybe that's become more apparent. I think as my body's changed, as I've got older, actually, I need those supports. I need to make sure that I can keep working on my posture and alignment.
Well, to come into this, which I know we'll talk about it, we met you on teacher training as you joined our program, and the confidence of coming in and saying what you needed, which I wasn't there for, but that was she was very like, you were very like, this is what I need for me to support for me to support the practicum of the teacher training. So it'd be lovely to touch on this like as we keep going, but yeah, the confidence to say this is what I need, Yeah.
And I think as you get older, perhaps that's something that you really stand by, that you actually kind of go, this is what my body needs. I'm going to kind of really make this a priority.
And you don't know at first, but actually the work that you've done perhaps with Pilates and a teacher that really made a difference to how you were progressing, could lead into, again, going on to this teacher training program, becoming a yoga teacher, and all these other things that you're going to be touching upon.
Yeah, and I think also we take from different teachers. So I started with my Pilates, and then I moved into having a teacher that was I've just forgotten the word. My
Ashtanga?
brain's no
Iyengar,
which is very prop based.
Yeah.
And that was the real kind of bringing together, sort of really solidified that feeling for me of like, oh, hey, I can actually use props, and actually this is a really good thing. And that's when I really started using a lot more props in my home kind of practice that I was doing, and being more confident to take it into class. And I know I've coming to Urban Om and coming to the teaching that you were doing, I kind of needed an environment where it was enabling, and that I wasn't afraid that someone would kind of come over and adjust me, and that it was okay to have props and modify.
Well, we do, we have a section in teacher training which is prop focused, right? And of course we use props during the posture clinic throughout the whole program, for that deepened awareness, really, right?
It is. It's kind of like when you came into teacher training, and it's a bit like, oh yeah, I need to bring some props in with me. We're like, oh yeah, we really support props. It's really good to have them. It really makes, the postures come alive. It's just lifting the floor up to you. And you're like, yeah, I sometimes need to stand on one. We're like, oh, okay. Yeah, my leg's a little bit shorter than the other. And I was like, oh, that's normal.
Yeah, because some people do.
Yeah.
Like quite a lot of people have just that kind of 1 centimetre or so.
It's hardly noticeable. Sometimes you have trousers on, you're like, oh, that one feels a little bit different. But it's kind of like the norm. And then you're like, no, mine's 4 centimetres. It's like, yeah, just bring your blocks in.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually what was great about the coming into that teacher training is that you were very open and it was very accessible. Mm-hmm. So actually someone coming in with a disability, that actually you were really open to having me there. And I think I was quite afraid to sign up to doing a teacher training, thinking, well, actually, there's so many things that I can't, and still can't do in yoga. And that could have been a barrier.
It's so difficult though, because it wasn't meant to be, right? Like ultimately the philosophy and the ethos of yoga is that it's to support your body for movement, for development, for enhancing your life, So I think it is, sometimes you do have this modern day commercial inner belief, and we'll talk about inner beliefs, today, especially with Yoga for Health, because I think Yoga for Health, when we do have a mental, emotional, physical need, and yoga is something that could really help support it, we do come against that inner belief that it should be something else or it needs to be something else. But actually it was always what it was supposed to be, which is why we're so happy for you to be on the show and tell us more about your history and the work that you've done and what's inspired you really on the journey of where you're going, But yeah, back to you, of course, as you continue to progress. So,
but I think coming into the studio as well as kind of like the teachers is kind of like, oh, how do I support you?
Yeah.
And it was great that you kind of had that confidence then. You knew what you was doing. So obviously we learned from that. And hopefully we just gave you kind of that empowerment, really. Just go like, you do what you need to do. And that's great.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing, isn't it?
And
that you felt good.
And for us, it was an early on program that you had come onto. But now with yoga therapeutics training that I've had and Pilates training that you've had that works into yoga rehab, actually, we've all progressed in our knowledge in how this would be something that we're going forward with and something that we're all coming together to do to create a yoga therapeutics program. Because actually we are going to be working on that together as a team. But that's, this has kind of given us all confidence to move towards a program that really supports
the individual.
Where we're heading. Exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly that. And just to add on with Iyengar yoga, to come back to what you had said, a lot of the research was saying that when it was yoga for chronic back pain, Iyengar yoga was what was the highest ranked yoga practice because of prop usage. So it actually is really recognized in research, that particular style. Yeah. But of course there's yin yoga and restorative yoga and so many different kinds that they're researching now. But it was just interesting that you had that Iyengar yoga was your in, because it actually is something that is supporting postural misalignment and pain.
It was great. Yeah, absolutely. The use of props. Yeah. I mean, from that, I think then opened the door to yoga for me. So I was then, the Iyengar wasn't quite right because well,
traditional Iyengar is actually very strict, right?
And it's like, you're going to turn your hips.
We want the modern day Iyengar.
To the long edge of the mat when you're doing your warrior, your warrior
They're
two.
very precise, but it's very traditional, right?
Yeah.
And it's not for Western bodies. I think it's the Eastern tradition on Eastern bodies. And I think that that's where we do modify now, and we become more modern in our yoga approach for Western bodies.
Yeah, and a Western body, and within a Western body as well, that you've got people who are very flexible, who will be drawn to yoga because it is very pleasing to be really good. That sort of that feeling of like that sort of lovely stretch and all that sort of thing. And I think for many people, they feel that yoga maybe isn't for them because they say, I'm not flexible. I can't do yoga.
We've absolutely touched upon this as one of our myth busters.
And I think for me, the yoga is about. I don't have really great opening of the hips. My hips are really tight because of my pelvic imbalance and because of the operations, and just because I just will never have that wide range of movement.
Compression sometimes, bone on bone.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I can't make that any bigger, but what I can do through my yoga is I can maintain.
Exactly that.
You can work with the tension as well, can't you? Releasing the ligaments, your tendons.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think there's a need for both, but I think compression, you can sometimes move around with props, but obviously not so much in your case. But with our tension and kind of, you can help stretch and release.
Absolutely. And the slower yoga as well is really great.
Because you've got time as well.
You've got time to release and kind of letting go.
And just for our audience sake, compression and tension, the difference is that compression is bone on bone. And there is no way certain bodies, based on where their hip joint and how it connects, or a shoulder joint, it's, that we're going to make certain shapes, you know. But the tension, yes, we can work towards muscle tension. If we are tense, the more we're relaxing, the more we're stretching, we'll get our optimum range of movement, whatever that is for us. But coming back to inner beliefs, I think that there's a lot here with what we think we should do or what we need to be doing, and how we really have to go through that. But, we'll definitely touch upon that when you're explaining more about the work that you've done with women and women's health and things, because it'd be a lovely topic to really talk about for yoga and health, and how these inner beliefs are just sitting back there, and we're not even aware of them sometimes.
Yeah, so much,
right?
So much. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So how did you keep progressing? So Iyengar was quite intense and strict. So what was your next step? Because actually you were an interesting case when we talked about, when we found out a lot of our yoga teachers started through Pilates. And so we do want to know how it progressed into yoga for you. So let's come back to this.
Okay. So the next step, so we have the Pilates start, the kind of the Iyengar yoga, and then I had my first child, and I had a bladder prolapse, and that was like just the biggest news I felt for me. It was just kind of, well, how did this happen? I didn't really know this
first child
happen.
Trauma. We don't even know it's coming.
Just like, what? I was absolutely horrified. I remember being really shocked by it, did loads of reading, did loads of research, and I ended up going to I call her a Pilates teacher, but
blended.
She's a blended
Did
teacher.
you know that Joseph Pilates did yoga? Because Ali actually told us. Martial arts, yoga.
It's an influence for him, martial arts.
You see, there's that blended thing. So the teacher I saw, she is a Pilates teacher, but her background is in dance.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And she is trained in gyrokinesis, which is like Pilates 3-dimensionally. So it's all about kind of, I'm going to like going in circles.
Exactly what I'm saying is what she did.
And she does reformer work as well. Okay. So I did some work on the reformer and some work gyro. And the thing about gyro, and her background being a dancer is that you think rhythmically and three-dimensionally.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before.
It sounds amazing.
It is amazing.
And I will say with dance and yoga and that kind of blend, or dance, Pilates, yoga, I think that there's a relaxation and it's just expressive, right? It becomes a little bit more expressive, like body expression. And I feel like there's freedom in that as well.
A fluidity.
Right? There's a fluidity. And what they're saying is stress will disrupt rhythmic patterns, the heart, the thinking, like the brain frequency. Like there's a rhythm disruption. So actually the antithesis for that would be something kind of, like fluid and dance-like and rhythmic, because that's actually really good for stress as well.
Regulation of the nervous system. Yeah. That's all kind of into that somatic.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
My teacher was also a dance teacher, so I kind of understand where that, so I feel like that rhythm is such a big thing for where I teach as well, because you just get in the flow.
You do. And I think then you kind of regulate, you find your flow, you find
you're
your
in a
rhythm.
zone.
Yeah,
exactly.
in the zone.
You're in the zone. And that is a thing actually, when people are in the flow, right? Like they're just like in it.
So there I was doing some rehab really around my prolapse, and a lot of rethinking about, I play the flute, and obviously it's very athletic, the breathing and the support, and actually made me rethink my teaching around breathing and support, the way I had been taught, perhaps looking into the thinking around core and the way we cue. And that's really what led me into working with other women. So the very first course I ran online, I guess during COVID.
Wow.
Infamous COVID.
Yeah.
It marks a lot of time. Before, during, and after COVID.
Absolutely.
Seems to be a thing, right?
Yeah.
So when you learn the flute as a youngster, because I've got no idea, do they teach you how to breathe to get the best out of the music?
Good question.
What's really interesting about music is you have to kind of breathe where the music dictates.
Okay.
So sometimes you have to go beyond where you actually naturally want to take a breath. You feel, that sort of reflex of wanting to take a breath, but you have to push through.
Wow.
Which is really, and that continues. And playing a wind instrument is really a wonderful thing for, some breathing conditions. So if you're asthmatic, that it actually expands and extends your breath.
It's exercise for your lungs in some way, shape, or form.
It's like doing, physio for your lungs. And I guess with younger students is that you're going to be talking about, in some ways like how we talk in yoga sometimes, that the quality of the breath, the heat of the breath, or the coolness of the breath.
Oh, that's pranayama, like very traditional.
Yeah,
very
so it's
traditional.
not surprising that I kind of came into yoga and used breath for my rehab. So one of the things, I think when I had my prolapse, is like, I've got to just squeeze. I need to just squeeze more, which is kind of going back to those attitudes. Yeah. And when I started doing more reading about it, it was that actually we do need strength, but we need length and we need the release.
Oh, I love that. We did talk about this actually recently, and it adds on because we said, like, what makes yoga different, right? Like, what is that additional thing that we'll say in teacher training, which you would have been a part of that theory component? Like, what makes yoga different? Organ health, exactly, internal. But actually, it's strength was the first thing that we had learned scientifically, right? To strengthen, to squeeze. That's how you strengthen. You squeeze, or you are repeating a movement. And that was really the first thing that was really well known on exercise and movement. Then they're like, oh, well, the muscle needs to lengthen. It needs to stretch. So now that's the next component. But actually in the last 20 years, it's like, well, the muscle needs to release. It needs to relax. Yeah. So now you need 3 components. And where are you getting that relaxation? Well, it's that stage of yoga nidra, relaxation, and the things that you're doing. But actually you do need like a balanced approach across all 3 for you to be the maximum, or for that muscle or whatever it is that you're working on to be like at their highest at its highest potential.
Yeah.
You know, but that's only new knowledge though, right? That you do need all that 3. And we're still kind of like light bulb, like, oh, wow, actually you do, you know, there's something missing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why different approaches help. So when I'm working with women, I work with women in a yoga context. I mean, I say yoga broadly because I'm doing
dance, musician, all of your background is coming in there.
It's everything coming in. So we'd be looking at, some people come because they've got pelvic floor issues, but actually it's to do with their jaw tension.
Oh, yes, the jaw and the pelvic floor.
People come with pelvic floor issues and they've actually got reflux. They've got like tightness in their kind of abdominal area. And actually I've had a lady come with what she thought was reflux, but actually it was throat tension.
Wow.
And we worked on kind of heart openers and releasing through the front of the throat.
That's
and working on her breathing.
Knowledge.
And then she was like, oh, I've got no reflux. Maybe it wasn't reflux. Maybe it was just I was kind of creating this sort of tension, you know, abdominally because of the throat. And
maybe a lot of our, not a lot, but at least some of our things that we experience could most likely be from over tensing, right?
Yeah.
Internal over tensing, digestion issues, like, you know, a lot of different things could possibly come from there. My question to you as we work into women's health, so this was a niche that you were really interested in now because of like after having the first baby and the things that you had gone through, is this something that you knew that you wanted to do, or was it just a natural thing that you started to progress into?
It was sort of necessity because I remember going to my then GP when I was living in London and saying, you know, I'm a flute player. I've had this prolapse. You know, how like is this going to affect my job? And I remember them kind of just going, well, you know, you're not going to be able to play the flute. Literally, like you are going to have to change your job because it's very sort of.
It's like survival instincts. Like, I need to figure this out.
Yeah, I was like, hang on a second.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem quite right.
That's drastic, isn't it?
That's really drastic.
It's
I came
kind
out in
of,
tears.
yeah, I've got a bit of a problem here. Help me. Well, you just need to change your job. Yeah.
And I think some situations, medical situations can be like that. And actually as you know, you both know, I'm also training to be a physio at the moment. And that one of the things that we're taught is that really trying to enable people so that actually it's like, what is their fitness? Where are they at? What do they do? How can you help them get back to that?
And it's incredible when you do come from a background like this and go into the medical field, I think, or a clinical field. I think that there is a lot more insight.
Yeah.
It's like when a medical doctor has become a yoga, not maybe a yoga teacher, but they've done yoga at such a high level. And then they start really combining the two, which is creating a whole new field or neuro or whatever it is. But any kind of profession plus yoga just really enters, like, you know, you're entering a whole different, and I'm sure Pilates and other places and fitness in general, but definitely in the yoga world, it's lovely to have professionals that have experience, understanding, and then you take on this clinical role. Like, you know, it's just a beautiful way for, I think, our clinical practice to go forward, right?
Yeah. And I think the thing that about yoga is that you've got the mental health element, we've got that meditation, mindfulness, visualization, however you want to kind of think of it. The kind of the strength work, the pranayama, the breath work. And even if meditation isn't quite your thing, you can do mindful movement with the breath. You know, we've talked about that in teacher training. Movement and breath. Hatha yoga, it's movement and breath.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely multidimensional.
Yeah.
So women, it was just something that you needed, you said. So when it was to women's health and the niche into this, it was something that you felt that you needed.
Because I mean, my identity is kind of wrapped around my job as a flute player. It's like, well, hang on a second, that can't be quite right. Let's look at this. So I looked at, I did some reading about breath. I did some training. I was interested in how people's beliefs around strength and their pelvic floor maybe affected what they felt they needed. So, we might have a diagnosis or some sort of issue with our pelvic floor, and then we think, oh, well, I just need to actually do those pelvic floor exercises.
More squeezing.
Yeah, more squeezing. Squeeze it, push
Squeeze
it,
it at
work
the traffic
it.
lights.
Yeah. And
it's adrenaline-based culture, though, right? Let's just if you do more, let's do more.
We can be better. Absolutely. And
We spoke about that, didn't we? That everybody's always saying about pull your pelvic floor up, pull it up, squeeze it up. And no one actually says that you actually need to be able to relax it at the same time.
Yeah. And also posturally, alignment. So using biofeedback, certainly there's been research about when people in studies have done alignment work with their pelvis. And of course, that's something that I'm quite familiar with.
Yeah.
Because of Pilates and physio and all that?
Because of the leg length difference.
Oh, of course. Understandable.
Yeah. So there's tensions on one side of my pelvis, and there's length on one side and there's shortening on the other. So kind of cramming in and then kind of over lengthened.
So you're overcompensating one side with the other?
All the time. So one of the things that when I had my prolapse, I started wearing a shoe raise and making sure that actually I was minimizing that tension, but actually working around pelvic rebalance. When I'd done some pelvic rebalance, the biofeedback, the amount I was able to actually recruit my muscles shot up.
That's amazing.
Isn't it?
That's
so just by doing alignment, I was able to recruit my muscles better.
It makes sense. But you know what? You put your bones in the right place and the muscles are just
good to go.
They're able to kind of, but you've got to, but how much do we, you start off on a certain journey of just maybe fitness or emotional health, or something happens to your job or something, we all start off in some kind of health like focus, and how much we learn along the way about ourselves and about just so much we learn, right? And it's just an incredible journey, I think, whichever discipline we choose. Mm-hmm. I think, again, coming back to health for today's topic, incredible, right? Health is such a big thing, whichever avenue you're looking at it, mental, physical, emotional,
I think it was your determination as well, though, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
To say I can change this and I'm not going to settle for this. This is not the answer that I want.
Yeah.
What can I do about it?
Yeah.
And, you and Sarah are probably the same. You pick up books and you're like,
we're the book girls.
Let's keep reading all about it. But, you actually went out there. You put yourself in probably some points that are quite uncomfortable situations because you're like, I can sort this out. And I think that's great that you're now going to help other people from your experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing. You are real. It's not just somebody who's read a book and then said, well, I read this, whatever. You've actually lived it.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly that.
And also, I think the thing of embracing the overlaps. So I'm coming at it from different angles, and I'm not afraid for the overlaps to happen, that actually we're kind of doing the breath work. And I think
multidimensional approach.
Exactly, which is like the multidisciplined team.
Yes, you need everyone. You can't just have holistic health on that person.
Whole person.
We're looking at that whole thing. Do you know this segues really well, and we'll connect it all together into inner beliefs. And so as we were talking about women's health, I'd love to hear more about what those sessions look like. But from what I've understood, just to kind of move us in that direction, is it's like an iceberg, right? So we've got the tip of the iceberg that we can see above the ocean, right? And that's our conscious mind, what leads us. But then there's this huge thing under the ocean that we don't see. And it's actually what leads us behind the scenes. We're not good enough. We should be doing this. Our bodies need to be doing this. So that's a lot of bravery to now go forward and find out more about yourself. And sometimes, again, survival instincts that are pushing you in that direction. So I'd love to hear more about the women's health work that you did and do, and just work in general. And we'll go into physio as well, because I know that that's that next stage, as well as, connecting it with yoga again. But yeah, let's talk more about how did you overcome these limiting beliefs behind us that we can't and we don't, to I will and I do. How did, were you aware? Episode 10. just strictly episode 10, inner beliefs. But I think it's a big thing because connected to yoga, one of the benefits of hypnotherapy and yoga nidra is that you're in this theta brainwave, this meditative state where you're not a hypnagogic state, where you're not awake and you're not asleep. And you're listening to this yoga nidra script, going through each part of your body, learning to release it because we're so tight and we're so tense. So this kind of really wraps up into what you guys have been talked about with Pilates and squeezing and what do we squeeze and how do we constantly squeeze the pelvic floor. But then also, how do we clear? The way that I look at it is that it's like the web browser. You know, we got to connect it to modern day technology for it to make a lot of sense. It's like you're clearing the history, the backlog of your web pages. And that's really what happens. We accumulate so much noise behind the scenes. And yoga nidra, hypnotherapy, they tend to cleanse, like meditation. They clean that backlog so that you've got the strength to go forward. So that could have been happening without even realizing it because you're in that way. But I'm going to give it back to you guys because, you know, inner beliefs, women's health, you know, this and then all of the squeezing and the relaxation. Let's take it. Let's take it.
I think one of the tools I've certainly used with women is looking at like what is your pelvic health landscape, and that would be so there's a coaching element of pelvic health, which I think is really key, and I guess that is that holistic element. So you be asking someone to think about maybe literally from, you know, when their period started, how was that introduced? What was their family dynamic about that? Was it discussed?
Is there shame around it? Embarrassment?
What was the dialogue? All of that
Yeah.
sort of thing. I mean, that obviously that's changed so much. There's some great books out there, Period Power. That's really changed. But for women of a certain age,
different generation,
and you know, my generation, like people were talking about that sort of thing, but for an older generation, people were not talking about that thing.
Exactly.
My mum, sorry, mum, I'm going to just say like your little story here. I
know, we'll actually all share our story. Cover your ears now.
She thought she was dying when she had her first period because there was blood coming from her body, which, you know, blood is like
explained.
Bad, that sort of thing. So you're looking at period health, period dialogue, family sort of beliefs around periods and the shame. And then maybe you're looking at first sexual experiences, because remember that pelvic floor is about as much letting things out. So when we and when we poo, but as much as letting things in.
Absolutely. And again, what do we think about like that embarrassment, that shame, that
letting things out, birth. Maybe there's birth trauma that's not necessarily around birth where it's a vaginal birth, and also being really careful of language about saying natural birth, because then again, there's that
they feel like that's unnatural if they didn't go that way. Oh, it's so true. This is another episode 11.
There's so much. And then kind of moving through birth trauma, then you've got you know, sex after birth. You've got also thinking about people who maybe have gender dysphoria, you know, how they feel about their pelvic floor. There's so much.
How do you target this? So how would you, so would it be a meditation at a women's, like a yoga women's health or women's
how would I target?
How would you target these deep stuff?
So I think by listening. So active listening is always where I'd start. And the first session would always be about someone telling their story.
Are these one-to-ones or do you
one-to-ones? So in a group class, it's a very different
dynamic
setting. And I think people will share some things. I've certainly been in a group class where we did a, I don't know, 10 or 12 sessions, and then we did a 1-to-1 session. And I think people will share some things. I've certainly been in a group class where we did a, I don't know, 10 or 12 sessions, and then we did a 1-to-1 session. And I think people will share some things. I've certainly been in a group class where we did a a kind of a warm-up icebreaker, which was
that was interesting.
where it was just a diagram with different like little people looking a bit different. It's called the blob tree, so if anyone wants to Google it.
I'm so Googling that.
Yeah, brilliant. And it's like, how do you feel about your pelvic floor? How does your pelvic floor feel today? And each person would choose a different image of this little
I
stick
like
person.
that. That's nice.
And some of the stick
sometimes you don't know the words for
exactly.
it. You don't have the
Sometimes
words
the
for
stick
it.
person would be like, yay, or like, party. And then other stick people would be
Hiding.
turned away, hiding, or that. And then they'd maybe talk about why they've chosen that.
And I would say if I went for the party one, it's because not because I was confident, but because I was trying to fight and break chains from a Indian, Muslim, Arabic background of whatever it was told to me. So I would have actually probably chose like, I'm here for it. I'm going to be the one that shares. Because I think in my story is how do we break that in the women that I see at the mosque or in our community. And when my daughter had her period, I was like, she texted me. She's like, I've got it. She's going to hate that I put this on air. I've got it. I know what to do. Please don't make a big deal. Please don't tell anyone. I told everyone. I was like, my mom, my mother-in-law. I was like, she's got it. I was so excited. But do you know what was interesting? She was a little bit quiet about it. And of course, I could have actually made it worse for her. But when she saw I was so excited, she got excited. She told her friends and they were going to make a basket for her. And I was like with my family and they're like, what are they going to put in that basket? Like, because they're like, we're going to make you a basket. I was like, I'm assuming women's health products, but it was such a different experience.
Yeah.
And so I was so much more fighting that, but either way, so that's amazing that you've got, and I just feel that hopefully that's kind of set the state. I mean, maybe I've embarrassed her as well. Like maybe I've created another trauma, but I was so excited for her. I was like, this is incredible. But specifically, I was like that because I know I didn't get that. And I had to work through it through my yoga and my yoga nidras and my inner belief releases. And I especially love that sometimes you don't know what to say and the words for it. So the pictures that you're using to move forward. So back to you.
It's okay. And two things, which are that in the pictures, one lady who was older said, I've never told anybody this, and then proceeded to carry on, what she'd never said. And the thing about the group sessions is that people can choose to say how much they want to say. And actually, in case
we've scared the audience of coming onto onto women's health.
The thing is about when you get women together and actually if they start
like a women's circle
talking about sometimes when I cough or sneeze, actually I leak a little bit, or, on the trampoline. And actually once one person says it,
everyone's like, that's what happens to me.
Exactly.
But
or
traditionally,
constipation, that's the other thing.
Yes.
Massive thing that.
Yeah.
Women's circle was a big thing though. Like a long time ago, the Ashtanga practice was for men and for younger men. And that was the thing. But the yoga that was happening for women were more nourishing, birth-related women's circles, women's health, from what I've understood, So I do think that it's empowering for us to be able to have that health workshop that's specific.
I think those conversations are difficult in certain cultures.
Absolutely.
And so we do
my culture.
We do have, health inequalities in women's health. And that is one of the aims that, in physiotherapy that is trying to be addressed, so that making sure that actually very proactively that certain areas are really supported so that people get the healthcare they need. Obviously, when I'm talking about women's pelvic health, I'm doing it from a yoga perspective. And that's because for me, it encompasses all the areas that you've got that mental health, you've got that time to listen. So much of women's health, pelvic health, is about telling the story.
So
massive,
true. I'm sure.
thing. And actually, so many symptoms disappear when people have told their story.
There's something there. But of course we're also seeing that, right? Like there's like a psychosomatic thing that's
chakras. Let's think about the chakras.
Yes.
It's that thing of like, the base, the sort of the stability.
Again, your inner beliefs. What is inside of your head? What are the stories in your mind, or what is Maslow's hierarchy of needs is another one.
Absolutely. So we start with safety.
Exactly.
And then we move
community,
on.
love, and chakras, they mirror Maslow's hierarchy of needs because you're coming into that survival at the bottom. Community, love, safety. And if this had something that was unsafe, then you're progressing that unsafety into your body. And the symptoms are just telling us, coming back to yoga, like health in general, it is a physical dialogue. Your body is telling you something, right? To listen to it, to pay attention. If you are going to look at it from this yogic, holistic point of view.
Yeah. And the thing about yoga is that when we're on the mat, and if we're either in a class or we're doing our own practice, we have that dialogue. That's the thing, is that we're reconnecting with the dialogue with our body. We're listening. We're consciously trying to listen to what our body's saying, how it's feeling. We're building awareness.
Mindfulness.
But
it is that listening, isn't it? Otherwise, we can just plow through.
Push through.
Literally push through.
Absolutely.
And I think when you are in these women's circles and you start to tell your story, it just feels then like when someone goes, that's me too, all of a sudden that's like a huge burden that's gone. Because like I say, if you're not talking about it, you're storing it, you're holding it.
Holding tension.
Negative energies. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you get that too.
Yeah.
It's that
so
bonding,
good.
I think, as well.
Oxytocin.
Trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coming into squeezing and over squeezing,
right?
Because we're just about push through, right? That's where it came from, push through. Tell us more about Pilates and breathing and pushing and pelvic floor. There was a conversation that you all were having. I'd love to hear more about like what, and I know that it might be that we don't know, right? There's different stances of it, but what are those stances?
Oh gosh, even, with all my knowledge, I still go through phases of having to let go of the squeeze thing. Of like going, do you know what? Sometimes just take it right back. Don't do any pelvic floor work and just come into the breath and, focus on the release and focus on, those deeper, longer holds in yoga where you're getting that sort of release.
Relaxing.
And so say for me with a hip issue, kinetic chain, muscles that kind of, muscles don't just kind of, we don't just have a muscle that's there and it's like an end point and that's it. Muscles blend into, they have this sort of chain. Yeah. So if you have hip tension, that is going to translate into your pelvic floor.
So it's the muscle slings, isn't it?
The muscle slings, exactly. That sort of Tom Myers myofascial slings. So there's different ways you can work into the pelvic floor without squeezing. So you can work through the breath. You can have dynamic breath. You can have release breath. You could work through your feet into your pelvic floor. You could work through your hips into your pelvic floor.
Yeah, I have heard about this. Feet to pelvic floor to jaw.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just like you were saying, you were like, oh, I've come from a pelvic floor. It's like, you need to relax your jaw.
Yeah,
You'd
exactly.
be like, are you for real?
Yeah.
That's golden.
And that's that toothpaste tube we were talking about earlier that you've got. If you imagine a tube of toothpaste is our body and you've got the lid on, so that's like your throat. And if you squeeze in the middle, which is your abdominals, and you keep the lid on, obviously you're creating more pressure inside. The pelvic floor's job is to balance pressure inside the abdominal, I'm going to say canister.
I was going to say cavity, right?
Like, cavity is a good word. Yeah. So if we're always holding our belly in, which is something that women do, like
inner belief society, we're not allowed to.
That's where it's come from.
Don't breathe, hold it in, and that's a real classic postural thing. Hold your belly in, stand up straight. And then with that, you probably hold your breath. And actually just thinking back to tension, how our eyes, so you can also work into pelvic health through your eyes.
Oh, that's new.
Yeah.
Oh, that's new.
So,
How does that work?
fight or flight, hard eyes, that sort of whole lizard kind of cold eye thing.
Oh, and they do say your eye actually does get
Yeah.
damaged when you're in fight flight too much. Like your eyesight will get damaged. Oh, that makes sense.
So when you let your eyes,
lenses are going
that's why my eyes, I'm constantly stressed. Am I like bug-eyed?
we're going to be staring at people now like,
yeah, so
Let's look at our dilated pupils.
soften the eyes. We do it in Shavasana,
Yeah.
you know, that you might sort of like choose to look at the ceiling, soften your eyes, soften your gaze.
Yeah.
That softens the breath, soft eyes, soft diaphragm, less tension in the pelvic floor.
Shavasana, end of yoga, your final rest. And it's such a deep opportunity for rest, even for just a few minutes.
Yeah.
And in our power classes, you get 1 minute.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we need to be better. But of course, other classes, you are getting that 3, 5, 7 minutes of rest where your body can actually understand, what does that mean?
Integration. It's about
Integration. What does that mean?
Body and mind.
And
Yeah.
first you come to yoga and you're just like, why am I? Well, if you go into a class that works for you, whether it's rest or power, the end can hopefully feel sweet, right? So because you're tired, so you can actually rest, especially hot, heated yoga can tire people more if they are very alert. But yeah, those moments of rest, that deep relaxation is so important. I will say I've got the opposite problem. And I know it's not as common, but my issue is I'm very relaxed. My joints are very relaxed and soft. My pelvic floor was like very relaxed. Like but it didn't feel good. It's the two opposites of the same problem.
Yeah.
So I had to, in order for me not to have joint pain and problems later on, I've had to learn to squeeze, hold. So I actually had to do that with my pelvic floor and learn. So I had the opposite, just in case anyone's listening and could have the opposite problem.
So this is very interesting. So people do come with increased flexibility, and particularly when I see them when they're older, they may come with pelvic floor pain.
Yes, that's what I've had. But or just like there's just too much
they've
release.
got loads of laxity in there. They've got all this
Exactly.
flexibility.
Yeah.
So there's sort of mixed messages going on. So one of the things that it's this whole power and pain balance. And one of the things that you can do is you can work with oppositional force. So you can belt your yoga
Yes, that's
poses.
exactly what I've had to do. That was therapy for
in,
me.
Yeah, so in like down dog, you might like belt your arm so you can
Exactly.
press into
That's
the band, or you belt your thigh so you can press in. You might do side lying chair pose where you belt your legs and your kind of, so it's isometric, basically isometrics. And strength is your friend in that way. So you want to build up the strength in your body so that then you can allow your pelvic floor to then soften a little bit more.
Yeah. That's exactly what my therapeutic journey has been.
Yeah.
Using those. And it's actually where the branding had come from. Power and therapy. It seems like two opposites of a spectrum, but some of us need the power to strengthen back up again. And some of us need the therapeutics to relax. So it's basically the opposite is your medicine. And that's actually where the yoga brand was born from, is because you can come from two different angles. Like the opposite is your medicine.
It's the circle.
It's all emboined. And then
Yeah.
sometimes you over relax and you need to strengthen again.
Yep.
And sometimes you over strengthen and you need to relax again. How we know what we need, I don't know.
So it's all very
But-
complex.
It is complex.
How do I know? How do I know now what's happening?
Come to a power and restore class because you're going to get both
both.
anyway. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
but that's our signature class because you're getting both and it
Exactly.
gives the person some feedback.
So although I shouldn't be thinking in Shavasana, I could be thinking like, what's my pelvic floor doing?
All of a sudden, right?
I mean, but the great thing
Are you
is
stressed
that-
down there, pelvic floor?
The great thing is
Are we
that-
strong or are we relaxed?
I think it's feeling stressed.
I
It doesn't know how to perform.
And I think the audience probably feels the same. Like, we need to get ourselves into either yoga,
pull up, do
a
we let go?
1-to-1.
is that balance. So we wouldn't kind of like just go like, hey, my bicep needs strengthening. I'm just going to go with my.
Well, we do, but yes.
Yeah, but I mean, in an
We
ideal,
shouldn't.
we shouldn't. But it's that whole thing of like, what do our muscles need? What does our body need? Actually, we do need a mixture of movement and stillness. We do need a mixture of strength and stretch, or strength and power.
And we need to try it to figure out what it is that we really need.
And we different
or
things.
meet with teachers or meet with one-to-ones. Or again, you went through that journey with a teacher. I went through that journey with a teacher. We've gone through that journey with a teacher. Or a practice that increased our mindfulness so that we do check in with ourselves at a level of practicing a lot. But again, for those that are new or starting to, move into their journey, you don't know until you start, I guess, somewhere, right? In some kind of physical movement.
Yeah.
And then it progresses.
And I think a great way to start is Hatha yoga is movement and breath. We've got that lovely thing of, we've got the transitions where you move between poses. So you've got the movement, you've got the stillness of the poses where you're building that kind of isometric sort of strength where you're sort of holding a pose, but still keeping the breath going. You've got the relaxation at the end of the class.
Stretch.
I think
and
between the poses as well, isn't it? You've got that movement and then you come back to that stillness where internal body settles, reorganizes, and then you're off again.
Yeah.
What's good about yoga is that it's kind of embedded anyway, right? Ashtanga yoga to restorative yoga to yin yoga to yoga nidra, which is deep relaxation. It's embedded, which is lovely that you can get a little bit of everything. But again, it's coming back to myths. It's coming back to understanding which class is right for you. It's also coming back to finding the right teacher for you. It's a journey to find the right things, But Emma does teach at yoga at our studio.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if anyone's interested.
Yeah. So, come for what I'd call Emma's yoga. And I guess the thing about that is that I remember in TT when we were doing teacher training and we'd have to kind of do our yoga for each other to like learn how to teach. And my yoga, I remember the other students kind of going, yeah, Emma's yoga, it's deceptively simple, but it's really hard.
Exactly.
It's like really
is. Deep. It's strong and it's slow and controlled.
Yeah, exactly.
It's slow and controlled.
Yeah, it's because it's like
Emma's yoga.
Emma's yoga.
I think it's the musician background of, I really like the detail and it takes me time to I like the technique. I really like that sort of process system.
We are segueing into yoga therapeutics now.
Beautiful.
Your vision.
Yeah.
And yoga physio. Keep going because this is our final topic for yoga health. And it's exactly where I want to go. Okay. So you've said amazing words, technique, process.
Yes.
Right? You've got a system in place, the details, the depth, which is what makes it different from regular yoga classes.
Yes.
Even if it's taught in a group environment, because you can do the details and technique quite nicely in a one-to-one. But in a group, it's a little bit harder. But yoga therapeutics, yoga therapy, yoga rehab, yoga for health, Pilates and yoga for rehab, wherever it is that we're heading, the idea now is the details, the technique. There's a little bit more teacher understanding. There's an enhancement of knowing the muscles, the synergist muscles, the agonist, the antagonist. Like you're looking a little bit deeper into anatomy and then, of course, applying it to physio, yoga, etc. So tell us more about this, how this class got created and where we're going with this.
Yeah. So I guess if you're working with an injury that you might have an injury and then start that process of rehabilitation. And at what point can you then join a class? Mm-hmm. Well, I guess Yoga for Health, Yoga Therapeutics is this place where you can come with your injury and you can work within your injury.
Love it.
And I mean, we were talking about how, through the month, the different themes of kind of not quite head, shoulders, knees and toes, but
well, kind of. That's where it came from, our childhood.
So, and it's kind of taking the physiotherapy exercises, but moving them more into that sort of yoga framework where you're adding the breath. And I think that's the thing that, for me, that's the thing that really is missing in physio. I'm always adding in the breath. I'm like, come on, guys, let's add the breath.
We haven't talked about, so actually, if we can go a little bit detailed in Pilates breath, because actually that was what we wanted to talk about. So tell me more a little bit about breath in Pilates. And I know that we touched upon it, and you've got a different angle now as well. So breath, Pilates, yoga therapeutics, how we're now starting to move in there. So tell me, because you're right, breath is missing from traditional clinical work.
So breathing, I guess breathing in flute playing, let's start with that, is that I know that when I sit on a yoga ball or an over ball, like one of those sort of inflatable balls, when I'm playing my flute and I get right to the end of the phrase, and then if I bring my awareness to the ball, and then I take a breath in, I can feel my pelvic floor like on the ball suddenly. So as I'm breathing out, and it's quite dynamic because we talked about that earlier, how, you're kind of going way beyond maybe where you want to go. Pelvic floor comes up. So there's that sort of strength. And then as you breathe in, releases. And you can really feel that when you're on a ball. So, the way sometimes I teach pelvic floor contraction would be to blow out, blow out, blow out, blow out. Maybe add a little engagement, but sometimes not at all, because you're actually using the physiological, anatomical, normal process of the body, the pelvic floor drawing up when you're breathing out. Okay.
Aligning with, because you had and I'm sorry, we'll come back again, but just to connect this, there was something I had overheard with fruit. Blueberries, raspberries, a white t-shirt. Tell me more about this.
This was more the alignment that we were talking about in Pilates. Okay. Just getting set up to find our neutral in our spine.
But you were talking about the rhythmic breath. That was really nice in supine, how you were talking about how the rhythm of the breath, you would cue that when people were like lying on their back and then they'd lift one leg and lift the other. And
so it was kind to, we were saying that in Pilates, I always get confused between yoga and Pilates breath. And we were saying a bit like, we're doing this and what is the exertion? So Pilates, I believe, is you exhale on the exertion. So to come into tabletop, you're not just lifting your legs up, you're exhaling. So you're recruiting your center to lift up. So you're pulling your pelvic floor up to lift up one leg into tabletop, then you take a breath and then you lift the other up. So it's kind of like using kind of the pelvic floor to keep stability. And then I was saying I get confused a bit like, so we're inhaling here, but is that exertion? Because in yoga, that feels like an exertion.
It's so true.
And it's the other way around.
Yeah.
And then we were just saying about spinal alignment. And then we were just kind of saying the tube of toothpaste came in.
Yeah, these are great ways to describe them. I feel like I really could understand, like, I've got a white t-shirt and there's a blueberry. Like, absolutely, I'm not going to squish it now. Like whatever it is that I'm supposed to do, I'm going to do
visualization. And then, do we then encourage the pelvic floor to pull up on the inhale, or should it be releasing it on the exhale? Because in pregnancy, that's what you want to happen, because you want to kind of release the pelvic floor to help with pregnancy, to help with the birthing of the child. And then it's just going round in circles. And we were like, we don't know.
Well, different breaths for different purposes. Different breaths. And
different purposes.
I think what happens here is it just reinforces how much work we do for our own understanding as teachers, and how so much good quality teaching, at the studio. Like, this is just incredible to have so much knowledge here talking about it. So continue. Let's keep going. Back to breath. Back to therapeutics.
Breath. Yeah. So you can use the breath in that dynamic way. So not engage in the pelvic floor at all on the out breath. If someone did need to recruit, you can bring awareness by saying, how about if you just draw up as you get into the end of the breath? And then you can teach to release in the same way. So you might have someone sitting on an over ball and you get them to breathe out, bring their awareness to the ball. And as they breathe in, just notice what happens. And then I would do a round of breath where we're doing gentle breath. So it'd be breathing in, and then open mouth. So that whole thing of that tube of toothpaste.
Back to the
Take the lid off. So open mouth.
I love it.
Opens the lid, softens. So soft mouth, soft palate.
Yeah.
Soft diaphragm. So it's again those sort of those diaphragm stack ups.
Yeah.
Soft eyes. Yeah.
It's going to stick with me now.
Soft. So it's that soft
relaxation and release.
Release. So right, trying to like when we've
Not
recruited,
squeezing.
then we release.
Yeah.
So really thinking about that length. And different positions. So, I mean, yoga's great for this because you might be in a position where you are doing something quite dynamic. So let's just say something like warrior 2, and then maybe you've done a tilt. So it's a bit like a kind of a triangle, and then maybe like a little bit of a bind or something. And you're kind of breathing in that position and you're thinking, wow, I can really feel everything working hard. And you might have some awareness of your pelvic floor that actually you can feel it drawing up, because if you've got that tilt on, your abdominals are recruiting. So it's that tension to task. And because you've got a little bit more tension through the abdominal cavity, your pelvic floor is like, oh, hello, let's just switch on.
Mula bands.
Yeah, there you
Uddiyana
go.
band. All of those.
Yeah, it's a mula band, but without consciously recruiting it necessarily, so that you might
understand.
draw awareness.
So we're not squeezing again.
So we're not holding.
It's just everything's working together like organically.
Always organically for
and
me.
Do you know, this is where I think that yoga is different for me. For me, I feel like it's the most connected strength, where my arms and my core and my legs are talking to one another through meditation, mindfulness, power yoga. All of that comes together. And then that's where the arm balances are coming from. That's what I'm teaching my students, is that, yes, you target, go to Pilates, go to other places, go do what you got to do. Get your arms strong, get your core strong. I mean, of course, come to yoga and do it, but sometimes you do get targeted work in other forms of fitness. Great. But how do you connect it now? And I feel like that's where the mindfulness, meditation, breathing, yoga has helped me connect those groups. And now there's a flow. Now there's a movement. Now there's an arm balance, which looks like, oh, it's a fancy pose. But no, actually the advanced practice is breath and mindfulness and starting to connect the body and getting through the inner beliefs that I cannot do it. It really is those deep thoughts, I think. But that's what I've noticed when I'm, it's all of this connection, really.
Connection, yeah, absolutely,
right?
whole body. And I think
it's such a connection.
The group classes where we're doing yoga together is that it's that whole body, and that we might say, going back to yoga therapeutics, that we might be doing a class just on arms. And the thing about yoga therapeutics is, we have TheraBands, that kind of thing. Yes. So other props. And I bring in my overballs so that people can do some of that sort of, we're not necessarily doing particularly pelvic floor work, but we might be doing breath work. And of course, let's remember here that men have pelvic floors.
Oh, I love that.
We always talk about women's health.
I mean, today in particular, for sure, but absolutely for yoga for health, it's everything.
And
I guess the balls just give that feedback, don't they? Really?
They do, absolutely. And I think the great thing about sitting on a ball is that you get that lovely kind of opening out of the muscles, that's sort of that foundation for us. And it's a really great tool. I quite like the
coming back to props again, though, right? We're coming back to different kinds of props.
Yeah.
And how does it enhance our practice? Now, I've got our question here for you. Physio and yoga. So now you're on this course for physio. So congratulations to Allie, because she's finished with her Pilates and now she's got Pilates and yoga. I am just yoga. And now you've got, I did the mental emotional health side of yoga therapeutics, but you've got this physio side now. So tell us the similarities and the differences that you're starting to see, because we've talked about this as well, because we would love to really close on this opportunity of yoga therapy, but with a physio clinical evidence base, so that it becomes more real and stronger for people who are listening, like yoga does connect, Pilates does connect to physio. There is, I mean, not all the time, of course, it depends on your background, but it can.
Yeah.
Based on this new therapeutic route that we're going. So tell me about those similarities and differences with yoga, Pilates, physio. How do you see it now from your lens?
So I guess, I mean, studying physio, sometimes in the rehab classes. So I'm in my second year now and we're doing placements in clinical practice. But when we were doing the theory within the university and we're talking about rehab and how to do things and and I'm like, that's yoga.
Yeah.
And hang on.
That's our thing. That's yoga.
That's yoga as well. So there is a lot of overlap. I guess
yoga was the oldest form of exercise and movement anywhere. It was 5,000 years, 3,000 years. So it's all, it's Indian, it's gymnastics, it's dance. It's all of this, right? But in different ways and different methods and different targets.
Yeah. So the differences are, the breath is a massive, I'm kind of going, why is nobody adding the breath here? We need to do this.
This is what you're going to do when you're done with your program.
I think the rehab side then is just more functional, because we've had that conversation before, isn't it? There is the crossover. The body can only work in so many planes.
I think sometimes for some people, actually cognitively, they can only work in certain ways that sometimes actually if somebody has had an injury, all they can literally hold on to is the exercise in front of them. Yeah. But there are lots of areas of physio where they are treating the whole person and that their environment and their well-being and their mental health are a real key part in their rehabilitation and for them
treatment
to be
plan.
For them to be able to live well.
Yeah, it does go together, right? So well now.
Yeah, so
or
much
is coming. It
in.
always has been, but now we're connecting it more, right?
Yeah, and I guess the research is there. And the thing about that is in the medical realm is that the research has to be there because
it's evidence-based. You need something to tell us that this outcome is going to happen for that patient.
Yeah, exactly. Even though we might have lots of case studies where things have worked.
Sure.
So the thing about physio is that it's evidence-based, and for yoga therapeutics, when we're kind of having that
new.
Yeah.
It's only 20 years old.
We're waiting for the research.
Exactly. I mean, to be honest, this is and coming to the course that we're going to build together, I had done more mental emotional health, and that was where I had gone into my master's, because it was using yoga, meditation, mindfulness as a clinical intervention. What is the research? It was a research degree, but it's still new. It's not 5, 10, 15, 20 years old in positive psychology to start seeing when a person, something bad happens, like there's an adverse reaction. Regular psychology is how people go down. Positive psychology is how they use yoga, meditation, mindfulness, connected practices to rise, to build resilience. And that's only 20 to 30 years old, right? So it's not enough. I think it's just now coming out.
It is coming out.
But and this is where I think perhaps as we come to close, that's where the passion is for us, right? Like we're trying to build from physio, because you've got this, your course was also based on rehabilitation, right? Like, and it's Pilates trying to build it into rehabilitation. Mine was mental emotional health, building it into rehabilitation. Yours is physio and things that are missing in the clinical world, which is very important, but how do we build it? So this is like this yogic thing that we're trying to work out, because it hasn't built yet, but it's coming though. It is coming. These yoga therapeutic courses are coming, and we want to be at the front edge of this.
Yeah.
We want to be at the front edge.
Yeah. It treats the whole person. That is the thing that
I think it's realizing as well, sorry to cut you off, but that's why it is like physiotherapy, isn't it? Because the therapy, the physio, the therapist, you are that therapist.
Yeah.
It's not just fixing the body, like you say, it's fixing the whole.
And it does make a difference. The more we can work through inner beliefs, or at least hypnotherapy, yoga, nidra, relaxation, we start clearing that backlog. We start building ourselves with our, whatever our team is or whoever's there. But either way, like that's kind of the future. And that's where I really wanted us to, it's a lovely way to close today. Yoga for health, looking at women's health, looking at inner beliefs, looking at yoga, looking at how it all ties in together, all the different things that you've really built yourself into and what you've done, and how it is the future, and I think, it can be the future. It can be the work that you've done and the work that you're doing. I think from your physical side, from the physical side, from the mental side, I think that this is the future, or we hope it's the future. And it's really been amazing to have you today. Anything else that just comes to mind in these final few moments? Like you've got your, really this focus on finishing up, of course, your course, but where it's going, where do you see it going? Where do you see this going?
So, oh gosh, that's a really
big question. Episode 12.
I think the thing is, I'm most interested in enabling people to work within where they are. And I think sometimes we're so sort of programmed for progress.
Yes.
That actually sometimes it's okay to work within, or not sometimes it's okay, it's completely okay to work within where we're at.
Yeah.
And
limitations.
And being
okay with limitations.
Being okay with that. And
because that's how you break through them, really.
Exactly. And progress is not necessarily being stronger.
Yeah.
It's back to that squeeze thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually softness is strength.
Softness is strength.
Softness is strength.
It's power. Softness is power.
We think it's like you slow down to speed up, but again, you're not trying to, but once you've slowed down, your speed up is different, right?
So much more mindful.
It's a different kind of mindset.
Yeah.
And physical.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of discipline, maybe, to be able to kind of go, do you know what? I'm going to just step back from that and create some space, whether that's thinking space or physical space, space within our body. And then, as you say, what your comeback after that will be stronger or more mindful. You're going to act in a more intelligent way, I think, better for your body.
Coming back to chakras, yoga, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you're now building to your highest potential.
There you go.
It's your self-actualization, which yoga talks about, like psychology, Maslow's hierarchy of needs talks about. But we get to feel what our potential is, and it doesn't need to be perfection. It just needs to be our purpose, our alignment, our connection. And that's the chakras. When you do reach that final chakra, it's really not enlightenment or wisdom, but it's like we're connected to where we're going and what are we here to do, right? And so it kind of really goes a little bit deep, but ultimately it does give us, it's an opportunity to take pain into purpose.
Yeah.
Or experiences into something useful for ourselves and for others, which I feel like yoga helped me with because it was embedded. The chakras embed that into it. It's embedded in the development of who we are and what we are.
Exactly. And you can live it. That's what I like about yoga, is that, which is different.
It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle. It's not just to exercise. You are living, breathing it. It's that whole
embodiment.
Yeah. The everydayness of it.
Yeah. Yeah, every day. Just the way our mental, emotional, physical way of actually carrying our bodies. Because so last time as we close, Ali was like, yoga is a lifestyle. And I was just like, compared to Pilates. I was like, Pilates is a lifestyle too. It's a trendy lifestyle though. But yoga has been like a more wellness lifestyle. Ultimately, I think that's what it is. But it's so lovely that it does connect to so many different fields and that we're here today because we've come from different angles, but ultimately we're still trying to connect how yoga does make a big difference to us. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure to have you. We've known you personally, right, since teacher training days, but to hear your story and to really see where, you've really developed from and how we can all be a part of something in the future. It's incredible. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.